at Nuremberg. Eagerly awaited in every part of the world was the climax to the long and strenuous months of the Nuremberg trial. While the judges were considering their verdicts, the military authorities were redoubling their security precautions. Armed guards were greatly increased in number, both in the courthouse itself and in the surrounding areas of the city. Once again comes the familiar scene, the crowded, floodlit courtroom with the 21 Nazi leaders taking their places in the dock. Day after day, for 10 months, the same routine has been observed. But now, the atmosphere grows tense with the entrance of the British, American, Russian, and French members of the tribunal. The Allied judges shared with the President of the Court the reading of the fateful words of the Nuremberg judgment. Mr. Francis Biddle speaks for the United States.
War for the solution of international controversies, undertaken as an instrument of national policy, certainly includes a war of aggression, and such a war is therefore outlawed by the Pact.
For Great Britain, Lord Justice Lawrence.
In connection with the administration of the concentration camps, the SS embarked on a series of experiments on human beings which were performed on prisoners of war or concentration camp inmates. These experiments included freezing to death and killing by poison bullets.
For France, Monsieur Don Dieu-Devar. All through the day, the quiet and solemn reading continued, while court officials translated into 4 languages the 50,000 words of the judgment.
And 25th of August. Его Святейшество Папы Римского 24 и 31 августа.
During part of this time, Hess appeared to be suffering from one of his attacks of stomach cramp and eventually had to leave the court. Not until early evening was the reading of the tribunal's judgment complete.
The tribunal will now adjourn.
Next morning, the judges again shared the reading of the individual verdicts, with the evidence on each accused examined in detail before his innocence or guilt was declared. First to be dealt with was Hermann Goering, found guilty on all 4 counts of the indictment.
And he participated in the conference of the 16th of July 1941, when Hitler said the National Socialists had no intention of ever leaving the occupied countries, and that all necessary measures, shooting, desettling, etc., should be taken.
Rudolf Hess, guilty on counts 1 and 2, was followed by Joachim von Ribbentrop, guilty on all 4 counts.
He took part in a conference between Hitler and Horthy on the deportation of Jews from Hungary, and informed Horthy that the Jews must either be exterminated or taken to concentration camps. It was because Hitler's policy and plans coincided with his own ideas that Ribbentrop served him so willingly to the end. Conclusion. The tribunal finds that Ribbentrop is guilty on all 4 counts.
Keitel. Conclusion. Le tribunal déclare.
Wilhelm Keitel, former chief of the High Command, was found guilty on all 4 counts. And von Neurath, former protector of Bohemia-Moravia, was guilty in the same degree. Hans Frank, former Governor-General of occupied Poland.
That Frank was a willing and knowing participant in the use of terrorism in Poland, in the economic exploitation of Poland in a way which led to the death by starvation of a large number of people, in the deportation to Germany as slave laborers of over 1 million Poles, and in a program involving the murder of at least 3 million Jews. The tribunal finds that Frank is not guilty in count 1, but is guilty under counts 3 and 4.
Julius Streicher.
He was responsible for the demolition on August the 10th, 1938, at the synagogue in Nuremberg. And on November the 10th, 1938, he spoke publicly in support of the Jewish pogrom which was taking place at that time. Streicher's incitement to murder and extermination at the time when Jews in the East were being killed under the most horrible conditions clearly constitutes persecution on political and racial grounds and constitutes a crime against humanity. Conclusion. The tribunal finds that Streicher is not guilty on count 1, but that he is guilty on count 4.
A surprise verdict for Hjalmar Schacht.
The tribunal finds that Schacht is not guilty on this indictment and directs that he shall be discharged by the marshal when the tribunal presently adjourns.
Another acquittal, this time for Franz von Papen.
Von Papen can be held guilty only if he was a party to the planning of aggressive war. There is no evidence that he was a party to the plans under which the occupation of Austria was a step in the direction of further aggressive action. Conclusion. The tribunal finds that von Papen is not guilty under this indictment and directs that he should be discharged by the marshal when the tribunal presently adjourns.
Later, Goering led his fellow conspirators in congratulating Schacht, von Papen and Fritzsche on their newly gained freedom. The former president of the Reichsbank talks to the press, while von Papen, diplomat of 2 wars, seemed to take his release with philosophic calm. In the afternoon, by order of the tribunal, no cameramen were allowed to be present when the guilty men received their sentences. But recordings bring much of the drama of those historic pronouncements by the president of the court.
Defendant Hermann Wilhelm Goering, on the counts of the indictment on which you have been convicted, the International Military Tribunal sentences you to death by hanging.
Very soon after the last sentence had been read, the people of Nuremberg were rushing to learn their former leader's fate. Perhaps, as they read, they remembered the appalling cost of the Second World War. 30 million killed, maimed, or missing, a terrible total which may have echoed through the minds of those who planned and brought about the greatest catastrophe of all time. Soon the guilty men will receive their just reward, but behind them they leave a legacy of sorrow and suffering that 1,000 years will never wipe out. In this momentous trial now ended, the world itself has been the judge. May the lessons of Nuremberg remain forever in the conscience of mankind.